as hard as she'll ever know. I love her to skin, bones are thrown, sticks and stones, just to let you validate your message to
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Load HQ. We're back. Away Days is back, and we're buzzing to talk all things Newcastle United. Finally, the international break's over. We can actually talk proper football again, and I say proper football because I mean it. International football is a bore for me, certainly if it's not major competitions. But let's get into it. And of course, I've got the main man, Chris Hall. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, mate. Very, very good.
I know it's been a busy week for you again. You've been on the on the trips around the country, haven't you?
Yeah. And frustratingly enough, as you well know, Pete, I'm going to be in London on Sunday. But I only found out quite late on. So I'm in London Sunday. I haven't got a ticket for the game. So if anyone knows of anyone who's got a ticket for the game at Tottenham, do let me know, because I'd love to go. And it seems a shame, that I'm down there for work, to not go. But I suppose there'll be plenty of pubs in London that'll be happy to see me.
Yeah, too right. I think there'll be a few Geordies making the trip down on the hope that they get a ticket as well, mate. So
yeah.
I wouldn't worry about that at all. But yeah, let's get that hashtag out. Ticket for Chris Hall. Let's get it out there. Let's get it going. Let's get Chris to the game, because as we know, it don't matter as long as you've got a ticket and you can get in. You sit wherever you want, and I'm sure we'll be sitting together, or standing together, should I say, on Sunday. But yeah, this is going to be a really, really interesting game for us with regards to Spurs. We have got Owen from the new Spurs Order that's going to join us. I know he's running a little bit late, but hey, who better to talk you through a preview when the guest is late than me and Chris, the two that know how to talk football better than anybody else.
Yeah. We can do it on our own, couldn't we, Pete?
Of course. But no, first and foremost, I can see in the chat loads of regulars on. Welcome everyone. You've got like Adam, Doug the Toon, Simon, Julie, Terry, Geordie Toon for Life, Lisa, Dunhill, Camel, all the regulars and more watching the show. So massive thanks to you guys. Appreciate you guys coming to join us. But look, from a Newcastle perspective, we'll talk a little bit of Newcastle at the moment. Eddie Howe's press conference today. I'm not sure if you managed to see his press conference, Chris.
Unfortunately not.
Interesting talk from Eddie Howe.
I heard about Callum Wilson. That's all I've heard.
Yeah,
but I haven't heard anything else, mate. I haven't heard anything else.
So I'll tell you what then. Let's get into Callum Wilson, because that one was quite interesting. In that there's been a little bit of a talking point with regards to Callum Wilson after that press conference. So the one thing that he said about Callum Wilson is that he is slightly behind Trippier in terms of his progress. What was really interesting about that is that he said, he's doing a little bit of jogging. He's out on grass. But what's happened on the back of that is that there's been journalists and as well as that Sky come out and said that they believe that he has actually had a setback in his kind of race to get fit, and actually it's looking unlikely that he can make the end of the season. Now, looking from a point of view that he is kind of like, he speaks differently, and this is where I'm getting a bit confused himself. So first and foremost, the Footballers Football podcast that he does with Mikel Antonio, he talks about him being running on the grass. He's running in boots. He's running in trainers. He's working his way back up. He feels like he's going to get back soon. Eddie Howe almost kind of agrees with that and says that he's, a little bit behind Trippier, and we'll get onto Trippier in a second, but, he's on his way back. The media have now said that he's had a hiccup and that it's unlikely he's going to make the season. Everyone's a little bit confused. There are some people that are now saying that Sky have misunderstood Eddie Howe's comments and that actually nothing's changed. We're a little bit in the dark here. I don't think that people know the actual situation. I don't know if anyone is putting up in the comments anything different. I'm not sure. I mean, what's your take on that, Chris?
Do you know what, Pete? It sounds funny, and I don't mean to sound like, I don't mean to sound dismissive, but for me, I'm not too concerned anyway, Pete. I kind of wrote Callum Wilson off for the season as it was. I mean, when we heard, that he may be coming back, that was a bonus for me. So, I was delighted to hear that, he could be back. But similarly, as I say, I wasn't expecting Callum Wilson to be available for this running. I've always thought he'd probably be back at best mid-April, maybe, more likely end of April, early May. And really, our future, Pete, will be decided by then, in my opinion. I think we'll be on probably 37, 38 points by then. So for me, you could argue, is it worth risking him? Is it worth throwing him in at the deep end when potentially he could pick up another knock? Or do we save him, get him right, and make sure that he's back fit and firing for the new season?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Look, we have to be careful, Callum Wilson. We have to make sure that he's 100% fit. I know he's very patient to a certain extent with his fitness. It was around this time last year, wasn't it, when he was out for ages? He had a long period out, I think, with his hamstring. And he said himself, he will only come back when he feels that he's ready to come back. And that's the thing with Callum Wilson. But we'll switch on to Kieran Trippier before we get Owen on. Owen's in the green room. But Kieran Trippier, on the plus side, was really positive news. And I'm really happy about this. In that Eddie Howe said today he was having a scan on his foot. Right, if that was given the all clear, he could actually be back very quickly. And they were his words, very quickly. Because unlike, and this is what Eddie Howe said, unlike Callum Wilson, which was a muscle injury and a muscle tear, Kieran Trippier's is a bone injury. So as soon as the bone's healed, the rest of him is good to go. Yeah. It's just the case they need to know that the screw's fit, the screw is okay, that the bone is healed, and then once that's done, he can be back quite quickly, which is similar to what we've heard. Some of the loaded lads have heard something similar in that once his bone is healed, it could actually move quite quickly. So it could well be in the next couple of weeks, we actually see Trippier back. And it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Kieran Trippier maybe make the bench against Wolves. Certainly, I'm thinking, am I in potentially Leicester the week after? Is a game that I reckon he could be back with 2 weeks' time. If they will know by now, today, whether he's been given the all clear or not. So for me, I think it could be something that moves on quickly. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great. I mean, bringing someone like him back is huge, isn't it? It's absolutely huge, and he has been such a big miss. I mean, would you, if I'd have said to you, Pete, first week in January when we signed him, if I'd said to you, we've got Kieran Trippier coming in and he's going to get injured in a few weeks and he's going to be like a huge miss to the team. Granted, you knew he'd be a good player, there's no doubt about that. But I've been overwhelmed by the impact he's had, not just on the pitch but also off the pitch, and it's been fantastic to see. And I can't actually remember a player being that committed. And I know that sounds really odd to say, but how many players do you know who get injured and then they're coming into, matches on crutches, and they're on the sideline and they're in training and they're going away, away with the lads when they go off for warm weather training and stuff like that. He's really integrated into the team, and he's acting like he's been here for a good 5, 6, 7 years. And I can't wait to get Owen on as well, because obviously Owen will have his own opinion formed of Kieran Trippier. But so far so good, and I can't speak more highly of him.
Yeah, definitely. And look, let's not wait around any longer. We'll get Owen in now, but just very quickly, loads more in the chat that have joined. Truls, the legend Truls, welcome Truls tonight. We've got our very own Mr. Dash Shocks in the chat, talking to everyone in the chat. Welcome. Ian is in the house. We've got a number of others. We've got Ashley. Ashley's back. How you doing, Ashley? And Thunder for Mole, and Mike as well. So welcome, guys, to the chat. Loads more in. Get your questions in, and get your questions in for Owen. What do you want to know, Tottenham related? Is it about Trippier? Is it about Conte? Is it about Kane? What do you want to know? Get your questions in, because the main man here from New Spurs Order, Owen, is in the house. How you doing, Owen?
Yeah, good. Grand, thanks. You can hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you fine, mate. Good. Welcome to Loaded
Issues. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Welcome to Away Days. And, it's always great for us to get the opposition perspective in the build-up to a game. And obviously, with it being Spurs, we've got a few links there anyway with previous players that Chris has mentioned. But, first and foremost, we'll touch on it now, just while you've come in, because we were talking about Kieran Trippier at this moment in time. From your perspective, Kieran Trippier, obviously he's been injured for us. He won't make the game on Sunday, unfortunately, but we love him as a player. We see him as a future captain. He's come in and really kind of hit the ground running with us before he got injured, and really kind of whipped up a storm with the Newcastle United faithful. But, how did you guys feel when he was playing for you guys at Tottenham?
I feel like when he broke into the team after Kyle Walker left, it felt like he was, at the time, I guess maybe a player punching above his weight a bit. Pochettino helped him out quite a lot. And to be fair to him, he came in and he started out really, really well. Technically very sound, slotted in, had a really good season, 17-18, obviously went to the World Cup, and then for whatever reason, throughout the whole 18-19 season, he was extremely poor for us. I'm not even sure as to what the reasons were. He's not been shy about speaking about how bad of a time he's had at Spurs. In fact, he can't actually stop talking about Spurs whenever he gets a chance to, so fair play. Yeah. But we managed to get a good fee for him in the end. Like when Atletico came in for him for 25 million or something like that, it was probably one of the only times we've actually got a decent fee for a player in recent history. And at that time, it felt like the right move because he was unhappy. He was playing poor. Yeah. And obviously now we can't begrudge him now at Newcastle. I don't think he'd get a great reception from Spurs fans, to be fair, but he'd definitely get in our team currently. He's a better right wing back or right back than anyone in our current Spurs squad. So yeah, fair play for you for nabbing him up.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned that obviously he wouldn't get a good reception. What's kind of the main reason for that?
I think just the way he kind of made excuses. Like obviously throughout the 18-19 season, it felt like he was making a mistake every other game. Like every 1 in 2, 1 in 3 games, he was making costly, decisive mistakes, which would end up in a goal for the opposition. And then he would leave complaining about other teammates, how the atmosphere was. He may have had a point, but it was, I think Levy tried to sell him a little bit earlier than when Atletico Madrid came in for him. And he felt like that was a bit unjustified, where it was a bit like, hang on, you were probably one of our poorest players in that season. If we can get a fee for you, then by all means we're going to. And he didn't feel like he got the support that he felt he deserved, but at the same time, it was okay. You were a case of one of our worst performers in that season. So where do we draw the line? I felt like he got support from Pochettino at the time, but obviously when that squad and that kind of cycle of the team came to its end, Kieran Trippier didn't see himself as part of the plans either.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. Yeah, it's interesting because I can remember, obviously Kieran Trippier scoring free kicks and getting assists for you guys, obviously in the height of Pochettino. But I do remember there was a couple of really bad back passes and really bad moments where he did kind of concede some goals. But he certainly kind of regained his form at Newcastle United. Mm-hmm. And look, we're absolutely very, very thankful to have him, and he's been a great addition to us. And like we've said, and Chris, I think you'll agree, I think he'll be probably, in the close season, he'll probably be given the captain's armband. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, oh, by the way, hello, Owen. Sorry, I didn't say hello. Yeah, right. I imagine he probably will be given the captain's armband. Although, Pete, the only problem I see of that not happening is if Jamal Lascelles is still in the club. So it's whether or not Eddie Howe wants to kind of rock the boat, because we already see, don't we, Jamal Lewis in training, and we see him warming up with the subs before the game and stuff like that, and you can tell in his face he's not very happy, because it must feel weird, mustn't it, being the captain of your club and you're not even in the starting 11 when you're fit. So if it got to the summer and Eddie Howe was like, listen, I'm going to give the captaincy to Kieran Trippier, I imagine, well, Jamal Lascelles has got two choices, hasn't he? He either sticks around and puts up with it, or he makes way in the summer. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of character he is and what kind of player he is as to whether or not that happens. But like I say, my only concern is that if he stays at the club, will Eddie Howe make that decision, or will he just keep him as club captain and just put Kieran Trippier as captain when Jamal Lascelles isn't in the team, which will probably be for the vast majority of the games?
No, I think that's more than a fair point. It will be a big decision for Eddie Howe. Personally, I think he will rock the boat. I think he will lay his marker down as the manager in the close season. I think he'll make Trippier captain.
I hope so.
But I also equally still think that Lascelles will still be at the club. I don't think Lascelles is going to relinquish his opportunity of staying at Newcastle very lightly, because with all due respect, with the way that we want to go, moving to potentially mid-table and moving forward in the future seasons to come, I think this is Lascelles' best chance to play at the highest level possible in his career, playing for a team that are mid-table, playing for a team that hopefully eventually challenge for top 8 and maybe more. I don't think Lascelles gets a better opportunity at that point to play for a team like that. So I think it's a really, really big moment. But I'm going to move on, because I'm interested to know Owen's thoughts on Spurs. So from Spurs' perspective, he's sitting 5th in the table at the moment. It's not very clear on there. 29 games, 51 points, 3 points behind your nearest rivals, Arsenal. We can see a little bit Owen in there. So yeah, having a decent one this season, still well in the race for top 4. But from your perspective, the results have been good building up to this game. Obviously the 5-0 at Everton. I remember us watching that and thinking, Everton are down at that point. We were watching it, rubbing our hands together as Newcastle fans when you guys goals left, right, and centre. It was very, very good to see. And if it wasn't for an inspired Cristiano Ronaldo at Old Trafford, you probably would have got the 3 points that day as well. So you've been on a sort of decent run of form. But how would you assess your season so far, going into the final 8 or 9 games of the season with Tottenham, and what do you expect from those last games of the season, and potentially where you're going to finish?
To sum it up, from the start of the season to this point, you could only really say bipolar for our season so far. We kind of came into it with really low expectations, to be fair. into this season while we had Nuno, I was thinking we would probably finish 6th at the highest.
Yeah.
Right. And then we'll see, to our pleasant surprise, we managed to get in Conte after winning the El Sacco at White Hart Lane and losing to United. And we've just been slowly getting that team together, getting that set team, believing in Conte's automations when it comes to actually moving the ball up the pitch. Because towards, I'd say, the end of Mourinho's tenure and throughout Nuno's tenure, we didn't know how to pass the football. And I distinctly remember you playing off the park, St. James's Park last season, and we nearly somehow scraped a win, shithouse a win, but you guys played us off the park despite numerous injuries. I think you had like 6 or 7 first team injuries, played us off the park. Joe Willock scored the last minute equaliser, but all in all, you deserve to win. Again, because we didn't know how to play football. We did not know how to play football. I hope Callum Wilson shows his face this weekend, by the way, but slowly believing and being brave with Conte's automations. There is a lot of Conte tax now on how we're performing well as a team. Luckily, our January signings have banged. They've come straight into the first 11, and now we've got this set 11 in his mind where we've just got that continuity to obviously build a run of wins. I think we've got 5 wins in the last 7 altogether. So generally, I'm feeling confident for the weekend.
I bet you are. I think we are as well, but we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
For different reasons. We'll definitely get in that in a second. But you've touched on the main man. He came in mid-season, a manager that we were linked with initially once the takeover had happened in October. In reality, was never going to come to us because of the situation that we were in. He's a manager that's always fighting at the top. And wants to be winning trophies, and rightly so. He's a supremely talented manager. But, obviously, Antonio Conte has come in and he really has sort of changed a number of players. He's got Kane back playing again, scoring goals. Son seems to be finding his form. He's really kind of brought in players, and made them kind of playing at the highest level again. But what's really interesting about this is that from our perspective as Newcastle fans, and I think there's a question here that's already come up, and I think it's from our very own Dash Shocks. I'll just click it on here. Do you think Conte will hang around in the summer? And the reason why Dash says that is because obviously, there was some concerns about, the vision of the club. There's been concerns about, is he actually going to get what he wants from this man, Daniel Levy, who doesn't always provide the ammo for the managers that they ask.
You got all the ammo in the clip.
Yeah. And so from your perspective, first of all, your assessment of Antonio Conte since coming to the club, and secondly, from what Daz has said, do you think he'll hang around in the summer?
I can't really speak highly enough of Conte, to be fair. I mean, we've managed to get one of the top 5 coaches in world football, and he's probably figuratively and literally had Levy by the neck several times already this season, and he's spoken quite openly about that, in terms of just making sure his ideas are aligned with the club's, and then he kind of feels inspired to stay. I do think they've taken that on board up top, but again, we've now got 9 cup finals to finish 4th. I was thinking about this earlier, and I was thinking if we don't finish 4th and we don't look like we can attract the type of players we want to potentially kick on, then I think Conte will probably look to try and leave. But yeah, we'll see for that summer. But again, I'm quietly confident we can still get 4th.
Well, what your Chris? What's your thoughts on? My words are all over the place. It's been a mad day. My words muddled up all over the place. Okay, Chris, from your perspective, Conte, and do you think Tottenham will get 4th from what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, when Antonio Conte joined Spurs, I must admit I was incredibly jealous because we were linked to him, and I was thinking, oh, and I'd kind of like put all my eggs in one basket for him. Like when we got linked with him, I was really excited by it. What I love most about Conte is the passion that he shows. He gets so animated and excited on the touchline, and as a fan, you want to see your manager do that, don't you? I mean, that was one of my only few criticisms of Rafa. Like, I know everyone loved the whole glasses in the pocket thing and job done, but like when we scored, you just go and sit down. And I think, like, you see Tottenham score and Antonio Conte's going mental, and I love it.
Is the
Absolutely
thing,
love it.
we've never had a manager cam in our whole time from my memory. But yeah, even going to the last game, you see a dedicated team of people just filming Conte for the whole game to bring out a Conte cam segment later on in the evening because they just love his animations that much.
Yeah,
it's okay. You'll get Mbappe in the summer though, so it's fine.
Come on,
everyone's saying that.
We need to dispel these rumours because we get opposition fans that mention these comments about Mbappe's and Neymar's and all the rest of it. Look, from our perspective as Newcastle fans, it actually doesn't come from Newcastle fans. It doesn't at all. None of us have ever thought, even from back in 2020 when we were in lockdown, when the takeover first was rumoured, and the Sun it was that came out with this supposed 11 of Newcastle that had Coutinho, Bale, Mbappe, all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden you've got pundits and media people actually thinking that Newcastle fans are expecting these players. We had an article last week of that Neymar. We were going to sign Neymar for 200 million in the summer. If anyone knows Newcastle, and anyone that's done from a media perspective, by the way, anyone that's done any research on Newcastle and looked at what we've done in January business-wise, will know that we are not going to go out and splash 200 million on one player this summer. It's just not the reality. So we have to kind of back our team and kind of dispel all these rumours about Mbappe. Mbappe is definitely going to Real Madrid. There's no doubt about that. But where he goes after Real Madrid, who knows? I'm not saying it'll be his. I'm saying who knows. But yeah, we're certainly not looking at those players in particular. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting with Conte. He's a top level manager, but he's a manager that expects the best. If he comes into a team, he wants certain things. So, for example, and it maybe have been to the detriment of Inter Milan, he went in there and he bought the likes of Lukaku. He bought the likes of Alexis Sanchez. He brought those top-level players in, and he produced because he ended up winning them the league. So he backs that up. But that's going to be the key in the summer, and that's where it will be that kind of like the balancing act. Will Levy kind of start to allow Tottenham to have that money, and Conte in particular, to strengthen, to give you the chance to go and win trophies? Or is he going to stick to his guns, as Levy's done for so many years, and Conte go, okay, if you're not going to give me what I want, I'm gonna be off? But I think it's going to be an interesting one to watch. But I do think how close you get to top four will be a huge bearing in that. With regards to whether he maybe sticks around or not in the summer, but we're going to move on to players now. Obviously we watched Tottenham quite a lot, and there's been a lot of talk around these two players, Son and Kane, together as a partnership. I think they've got the most goals and assists together as a strike partnership now in Premier League history. How important are they as a two to how you play as a team, particularly now under Antonio Conte?
Well, Conte prides his system on having two effective forwards on there. Glad you got a nice new picture up as well. That was from the West Ham game as well, right?
I think so.
It's not just the players for us as well, just their styles in general. Their play styles complement each other. Obviously, Kane. I still think Kane's playmaking is underrated. It's underrated, and for whatever reason, he seems to be quite hated by other rival fans. I don't know what your guys' perspective is on him, but generally, I think his playmaking is underrated. Son's had a bit of a hard time adjusting to Conte's system until the last, say, 2 weeks, because he's not the type of player that takes well to a lot of kind of instructions and where to be in this position when the ball's this side, where to track back when the ball's this side, etc., etc. He's a player who's now kind of evolved as like a focal point player for us, and essentially would need to be the highest player on the pitch and not be seen to be kind of tracking back or having the ball in deep positions. Whereas Kane can just do that and just find him in behind more times than not. But I think he's gone back to basics in the last few weeks, Son, and he's looking to just stay up top and just concentrate on his runs in behind more. Because even when he doesn't get the ball, he's the only player we have that makes those kind of runs and stretches teams, which again gives Kane the space to play, and Kulusevski as well, who's just come into the team and hit the ground running. But yeah, say no more. That those players' play styles, not only do they have world-class ability when they're on form, their play styles complement each other perfectly. So yeah, it's a case of our only bit of top quality at the moment. We've been trying to milk them dry, to be honest.
Can we talk about Bentancur as well? Because I've been watching. He's so good. He's so good on the ball.
Unreal. So I actually did wonder why we didn't go in for Bruno Guimaraes of Lyon when I saw the price that you guys got him for. Although I am partly scarred by talents signed from Lyon, but honestly, he's exactly what we needed. We didn't really have a midfielder, I guess, apart from Oliver Skip. Yeah, that's basically Oliver Skip in the picture there. But Oliver Skip was coming in, and he was the only one that could essentially hold on to the ball in deep positions and be able to defend at the same time. He's been injured recently with some mystery kind of hip/groin problem. Bentancur come in, and he is just a kind of vision of calmness. So you watch him live as well, in the positions he takes the ball in, you're thinking, please, like, don't actually call for the ball. Like, you're not even in space, but he takes it in, and he's so press resistant. And then manages to find the right pass when he distributes as well. And he can actually trap back and defend. So for 15 million euros that we got him for, it's such a steal. It's such a steal. And he's elevated the quality of our midfield straight away. So yeah, he's a shoo-in from now to the rest of the season at least.
I'll be honest with you. I was stunned. One, that you guys managed to sign him. And that's no disrespect to Tottenham at all. And the reason why I'm stunned that you guys managed to sign him is because I'm even more stunned that Juventus agreed to sell him. I think
Vlahovic, they needed that.
Yeah, and that had to be the reason. To be fair, if you look at Juventus, even with, in January, they had so many centre midfielders that they had to get rid of some because they just bought so many different, centre midfielders that had too many. There was so many sitting on the bench because they had them. But if I was to keep any of them, he would have been one that I'd have kept because I just think he's a supremely talented centre midfield player. So the fact that you've got him and it is a great piece of business. Secondly, for the price that you got him for, and there's no surprise for me. And I know, Chris, you mentioned him initially anyway. No surprise, I think, to either me or Chris that he's playing the way that he is for you guys.
Yeah, I think the only surprise for me, to be fair, was how quickly he's adapted. Yeah. Like you see Bruno again, who is a good signing for you, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Eddie Howe's obviously been holding him back a bit. He's not been starting until, I guess, recently, or getting more minutes until recently, I think I've seen. Whereas, to be fair to him, he's hit the ground running in a much faster, more physical league. When you compare it to Serie A, it's very... it's much slower tempo-wise. So for him to just come in and adapt instantly, I've got to give sporting director Paratici a bit of credit for that, and Conte as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, just helping him settle, and obviously Paratici to have the connections to get that deal done.
No. I think that's fair. And like I say, it was a fantastic deal. They've done a great job in terms of getting him in. So we've touched on Bentancur as well. We've slightly touched on Kulusevski, but Kulusevski also another great piece of business that you guys did in January as well. You've talked about Kane and Son, but just what has he given in addition to that front three that makes that front three work so well together?
He's a player who is intelligent, and that's something we've lacked kind of in between that kind of midfield and attack of Kane and Son since Eriksen's left, especially on that right hand side, which Eriksen tended to take up positions. And what he'd do, he'll know when to drop in, he'll know when to release the ball, and that's the minimum requirement. Lucas Moura would tend to just run into players all the time. Technically gifted player, but his decision making was insane. But someone that can, like Kulusevski, who can just drop in between the lines and help just link play intelligently, contribute with a few goals as well. And what he does as well, he's such a willing hard runner. He tends to cover Matt Doherty really, really well. So he's been perfect for us. Again, adapted straight away. And just the positions he takes up and decisions he makes, it's literally the basics. But that's what we have been missing. And fair play. He's been a massive hit, especially since I wasn't even mad that we missed out on Luis Diaz because we did get Kulusevski, and that might be sounding like silver linings and a glass half full kind of thing. But Luis Diaz was someone who's a profile like Heung-min Son. He'd like to run in behind, and we've still got no creativity, so we don't really solve any of the squad issues. Whereas Kulusevski's profile perfectly matched what we needed, and the deal we got for him, like Bentancur, was superb as well. So yeah, fair play. I love him.
Yeah, he's a talented player, talented boy. But we'll move on to Newcastle now. Obviously, from a Newcastle perspective, Owen, we've had a really, really good run up until the last two games before the international break. Went 9 unbeaten. At Christmas we were looking dead and buried. For most media, for most opposition teams in the league, they expected us to get relegated. There was a number in the fan base that thought we were going to get relegated as well. But Eddie Howe's come in.
I was hoping you would, but. No. Yeah,
interesting, because you're not the only ones to say that. Well, why, from your perspective, were you hoping we were going to get relegated?
Because at the time, before your run went well, before you went on this run, it didn't look like. I think we were really outside. Like we were massive outsiders to even finish fourth. Before we managed to put some kind of a run together. So with us finishing outside the top 4 and you guys staying up, I feel like we'd be pretty much in the same kind of market for players, and you could easily gazump us for obviously wages and transfer fees. So maybe a little bit of pettiness and jealousy there, to be fair. But a little bit as well, Callum Wilson acting like a bit of a knob when you played us at White Hart Lane last season.
I wondered
giving that post-match interview afterwards, smug from that penalty which you got, despite us actually performing really, really well. I think that was one of Jose Mourinho's last kind of good body of work team performances for us, in terms of being able to keep the opposition out and create loads of chances. And then we conceded that bozo handball decision, which Dyer had no idea about. Callum Wilson scores in the last minute, and he's just acting all smug in the post-match interview. I was like, okay, cool. You stay right there. And obviously Joe Linton as well. I don't know what his beef is with us, but he tends to always perform.
Yeah. He scored a couple of goals past you guys.
He got his first goal for Newcastle against Spurs.
It's been his only goals, man. It's been pretty much his only goals. Now he's a midfielder.
Yeah.
And now people are saying that Joe Linton can get into the Spurs midfield, and it's been mad. We'll see how he performs at stadium.
We'll come on to Joe Linton in a second because that'll be an interesting conversation. But from Callum Wilson's point of view, I know I heard you say it about Callum Wilson earlier on when you came on.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wonder why he said Callum Wilson. Now we know. Everyone in the chat that wondered why he kind of called out Callum Wilson and wanted him to be there on Sunday. Now we know why. Because obviously it was a very dubious penalty given last season. None of us were complaining. We were all sort of jumping.
I know. It was so shameless from him anyway.
We know we did not deserve that game. We got pummeled for 90 minutes and ended up getting that penalty late on.
And then they changed the rules for penalties and handballs literally like the next week.
Yeah.
It's so
it is bad. Like, it's bad. Yeah.
I have to say, we've been on the receiving end of some shocking decisions. So we've had it back and then some this season with regards to those like poor decisions that have gone against us. We've all kind of struggled with that. But look, I'll come back to the talk about Joe Linton because from our point of view, he has been a revelation really. As a striker, he wasn't going anywhere, wasn't doing anything. He could barely score a goal. As a striker, he was only going one way, and that was out the door. But he's been under Eddie Howe, been rejuvenated. He's been given an opportunity at centre mid, and he has a really interesting Tifo, who work alongside the Athletic, had some stats out the other day that actually he was one of the best performing midfielders, not just in the Premier League, but in the world. He had some of the best.
It is funny, that, isn't it?
For world football, which for us is kind of like, wow, like this is crazy. He's gone from a guy that we wanted out the door as a striker to a guy that is probably, and Chris, I don't know if you agree with me, I'm sure you do, he's probably one of the first names on our team sheet.
At the moment. At the moment, yeah, absolutely. Do you know what, P? I was laughing then. It's just because it sounds so ridiculous. And to be fair, Owen, I don't know how much you've seen of Newcastle recently, but it's crazy. Since Joe Linton's been moved into centre midfield, he's just a monster. He's an absolute monster. And it's just like, why has no one picked up on this until Eddie Howe? Like, why does Steve Bruce not think, do you know what, I'll put him there? Because don't get me wrong, Owen, as soon as Joe Linton gets anywhere around that 12-yard box, or 18-yard box, sorry, as soon as he gets around that 18-yard box, you can tell he just panics. But, in the centre of the park, he just looks like... The best way to describe him, Owen, is probably... From what I've seen, I'm not saying he is him yet, but from the way he's been playing, the best way... What? Sorry.
Is you going to say Moussa Dembele?
No. I loved to move to Dembele. No, I was going to say Yaya Toure. As in, he's a big unit. Not very good at shooting, but mate, honestly, he travels with the ball so well. And as soon as he's picked up a bit of pace and he's got the ball at his feet, no one's getting the ball off him. And he's actually quite tricky, isn't he, Pete?
Yeah, he is. He's. You know what? It's interesting you said, Owen, when you talked about Bentancur and you said, sometimes he asks for the ball and receives the ball in really tight space, and you're thinking, don't take it there. Like you don't want that ball in that position. We're the same with Joe Linton. He will demand and have the ball in the tightest of positions. We're thinking, oh my God, we're gonna get caught on the counter here. We're gonna get, they're gonna hit us big time. And he manages to produce a little bit of quality skill, a little flick, or he just uses his body to kind of protect the ball and create a little opening to get out of positions or find the pass that will get him out of a hole. And he just does it so well. And for a lad that's only been playing centre midfield for what, 3.5 months max in his career, I just think it's outstanding. And I just think, he finishes the season strong and maybe into next season with a little bit of more coaching from Eddie Howe and working on a few other things. I've said it before. I said it in joking about a year ago, but I'm actually saying it now as a genuine thing, is that if he continues playing the way he does and he takes that into next season, maybe not necessarily the World Cup, but I do think he'll play international football for Brazil at some point. in the next couple of years, because me and Chris talked about this before. You look at Brazil, and they've got like the likes of Casemiro, but he's obviously ticking on a little bit. You've got Fred that's in and out in his performances at Man United, sometimes good, sometimes shit, as Gattuso said many years ago. You've got one or two others that perform very well. You've got obviously Ramirez, Lucas Paqueta, but you can see Joe Linton doing a role, whether it's in the squad or starting in that Brazilian squad, if he continues the way he is. And the reason why I mentioned sort of Joe Linton is because of that reason, is because of the likes of Bentancur, and I think potentially that could be a really, really good battle in that midfield alongside Højbjerg, which I'm sure we'll see your team at some point, shortly with regards to Sunday. And if those two play coming up against the likes of Joe Linton, maybe Ramirez, Joe Willock, I think it could be a really, really good battle in that midfield. If you got those sort of like tough tackling, defensive style midfielders in Bentancur and Højbjerg, but you've got the attacking press that we've got for Newcastle in Joe Willock and Joe Linton, that doesn't allow teams to have time on the ball, really bombing forward, with Ramirez kind of sitting in and trying to dictate the play, which he has been doing in recent games. So I find it intriguing that that's going to be a battle that no one really talks about. No one really talks about Joe Linton, and that he could maybe cause a few problems with opposition sides. But for the fact that people underestimate him, it means that he overperforms and he surprises a lot of opposition teams.
I think this is the only opposition team that he's not going to surprise.
Yeah.
I hope anyway, because he's, as I say, he's only damaged us really, and now he's obviously playing centre midfield. He's looking like a £40 million player again, which is nice. Yeah. But it's only Moose a little bit early, liking his kind of career path to his. Even though he's been playing for 3 months in centre midfield, obviously Musele played up front for AZR, won the league gradually midfield. Fulham, and it took him quite a number of kind of really most perfection. He's fielder, he's middle of the park. He couldn't shoot, so yeah, I guess I'd like LA to join in that sense.
Yeah, I struggled to hear you a little bit there. I mean, I think your signal was going off slightly. I managed to catch a little bit from that, but
okay.
I think it's going to be a fantastic battle, that's for sure. Right, before we go into lineups, I think it might be good to have a few stats, and there's only one way that we have stats on away days on Loaded HQ, and here it is.
Evening, lads.
I like magic appears. How you doing, Keith?
I'm great, thanks. I'm happy that the Premier League's back. Put it that way, after a week of international friendlies.
I don't know about you three guys, but internationals are just getting worse and worse for me. I can't be doing with them. I just need the Premier League football back. But no, it's great to have you back, Keith. 00 Stato, back with some stats, ready for the game on Sunday. And I know you're not going to disappoint, just while Owen sorts out his internet. I know you're not going to disappoint, so throw some stats at us. Hopefully there's some good ones in there that are going to give us a little bit of hope.
Yeah, this is going to be mixed, so there'll be ups and downs here, but I'll just forewarn you of that, Pete. But there are some ups. Newcastle's overall record against Tottenham Since 1993-94 season, we've played them 59 times. We've won 25, we've drawn 9, and we've lost 25. So quite an even Stevens record there. There's always a lot of goals as well in the fixture. 185 since 1993-94, with Newcastle slightly edging that, 91 goals to Spurs' 89. There hasn't been a 0-0 draw in this fixture since 1971 when Supermac was playing for Newcastle.
Jesus.
Unbelievable, Jeff. Yep. Newcastle's record against Spurs at White Hart Lane. They've got a good record against them. 15 wins for Tottenham, 3 draws and 10 wins for Newcastle at what I call the White Hart Lane, but really it's the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium away to London. And really, the Newcastle's record in recent years has been really good against Tottenham as well at the old new White Hart Lane. 4 wins, 1 draw, and just 4 defeats. And that's better than the home records that Newcastle have got, where they've only won twice, they've drawn 2, and they've lost 6 against Tottenham at St James's Park. So Tottenham do like to travel up to Newcastle these days. But he has some more realistic stats from recent times as well. Newcastle have only picked up 1 point in 8 away matches against teams in the top half of the table, and that was against the West Ham. So that was in January. So that was in the good run there. Yeah. Newcastle's Premier League record of 22 wins in this fixture against Tottenham is only bettered by the record against Aston Villa. We've got 23 wins against Aston Villa, so they do have, touching on earlier, we do have a good record in recent Premier League against Tottenham. Top goal scorer in this fixture, no surprises, Harry Kane, 8 in 13 games. He likes playing Newcastle. And obviously you've touched on earlier in the show that Joe Linton, he's scored twice in as many seasons. Let's hope he can make it 3 seasons running on Sunday. My favourite player that plays for an opposition team, Son Heung-min, has scored 8 goals in his last 8 Premier League home fixtures. Eddie Howe, his managerial stats against Tottenham, he's managed 10 games, he's won 1, he's drawn 2, and he's lost 7. Also, I didn't want to touch on the goals, but in those games, there's only been 2 goals for Eddie Howe's side and 16 for Spurs' side. And Antonio Conte's managerial record against Newcastle, well, he's managed 3 games. He's won 2. He hasn't drawn any, and he's lost 1 out of those 3.
Interesting. Some interesting stats there, but a lot of them for a long way through were very, very 50-50. I think that's probably the most 50-50 level of stats that we've had all season from any team. Yeah. So that's a very, very interesting one.
I also wanted to add one more stat. Sorry, Pete. Kane and Son have combined for 39 goals in the 189 games they've played, and that is the record. So that's 3 clear of Frank Lampard and Didier Drogba at Chelsea.
Fantastic, and we touched on those 2 as a partnership earlier on in the show, and I think, from a Newcastle perspective, from our perspective, if we're going to get anything from the game on Sunday, that's where we're going to have to stop them playing. And look, it's going to be a tough task, a very, very tough task. But if anyone can stop them playing, it'll be this man here, Big Bambo, the Blythe Bonucci. Hopefully, we'll be able to turn it on and do what he did.
The what, Bonucci?
The Blythe Bonucci. That's where he's from, Blythe in Newcastle. So we call him the Blythe Bonucci. He's back to cause some problems. And this man as well, alongside him, Fabian Schär, who Eddie Howe confirmed, even though he pulled out of the Switzerland squad in the internationals, has been back in training with Newcastle and is looking to be fit for the game on Sunday. So that partnership has been crucial in our run, in that their linking together has been fantastic. Both very good on the ball, both good in the air, both can run and chase down players, but both are very, very organised in the back. And Sherry's been playing some of his best football for Newcastle in recent weeks. So it's great to know that he's potentially going to be coming back in to the team, that's for sure. So positives all the way through. But I'm going to come now because I'm looking at those questions, Chris, and we've got some fantastic questions for Owen. I want to get through some Tottenham-related questions. But before that, as always, is what we've been doing is a bit of a new feature, is asking Owen to put his potential team together. And so Owen thankfully put his team together that he thinks is going to start for Tottenham on Sunday. So here's his Newcastle 11 for the game on Sunday. So we've got, a 3-4-3 formation. Owen, talk us through why you think this potential team and why you think Davis just may start on Sunday.
Sure, I think I might have left that in from an old lineup. Same player though. But no, it's been the same team we just played for the last 3 or 4 weeks, 3 or 4 games, and it's been that continuity in that lineup which has become braver and playing Conte's style, and obviously leading us to some more consistent body of work performances, whereas we were only really kind of good in flashes before and couldn't really manage games properly. But having that familiarity with everyone in there for the last few weeks has given us a bit of a boost, especially Doherty at right wing back as well, which has been a pleasant surprise in the last few weeks, whereas he had all been written him off on new Spurs Order over there. They were refusing to even say his surname because he was performing that bad. And you couldn't really argue against it. He had been bad, but he's come in. Ben Davis, he mentioned, who I've got in brackets as just. He's been underappreciated still, I guess, this season. Even though he's been a key cog in the way Conte wants to play, he loves having that kind of left-footed left centre-back there to fire vertical infield passes in between the lines and make those underlapping runs as well forward to help out the two in midfield. Romero will do that the other side. And yeah, that's what Conte again has been doing the last 3-4 weeks, and I can't imagine him deviating from that lineup.
Yeah, it looks a very, very attacking lineup. Three obviously, 3 at the back, solid. Romero's had a very good season for you, although he was out injured for a period of time. Doherty and Reguilon are naturally attacking wing backs, with those 2 more defensive-minded centre midfielders in there. But it's that main 3 at the top. That main 3 are the ones that I think, from our perspective, that we really, really needed to be worried about. But Keith, what are your thoughts on that potential lineup there for Tottenham?
Yeah, I always think Kane and Son, the way they've been lining up is a concern, definitely. I'm interested to see, obviously, Ben Tanka, sorry if I pronounced that correctly, the newest signings as well, because I think in the last month in particular, Spurs look a lot more solid. Haven't really been conceding many goals as such, apart from that Ronaldo hat-trick in the United fixture. I always think as well, Lloris as well. I think he's doing a good job lately as well. So I think that's quite a solid lineup, really, from Spurs.
Definitely. Chris, just your thoughts about that Spurs lineup from Owen. What are your thoughts? What are your worries about how they could potentially line up if this is the lineup for Sunday?
To be honest, I know I was listening and I heard Owen talking about Doherty and he's turned things around and he's come back into favour. But I must admit, the wing backs worry me. I always worry coming up against wing backs because you never quite know what you're going to get with them. And I know those 2 are quite attacking. So I must admit the wing backs do worry me. As of course does Son and Kane, and well, there's a handful of players there, and they do have some fantastic players. And we were talking about Bentancur before, and if, like you rightly said, Pete, I think the battle in the middle between Bruno, Willock, assuming they're the ones who are going to be in there, Bruno, Willock, Joe Linton, if he's back, it's going to be. I think the game will be won in the middle of the park, but yeah, the wing backs do worry me because as much as Matty Targett's been very impressive since he's came in at left back, I'm always kind of waiting for a bad game. Because I don't know, again, Owen, I don't know how much you've seen of Newcastle, but since Matty Targett's come in, he's been absolutely fantastic. And obviously with Trippier out, we've kind of been playing, we were playing Kraft, then we brought in Manquillo, and then we started playing Kraft again. So Reguilon on the left does worry me a touch. But it's set up to be a great game. I think as well what'll be an interesting battle, and it'd be good to hear Owen's thoughts on this, but for me, Owen, I've always found Eric Dyer to be kind of a little bit hit and miss. Sometimes I watch him and think, oh God, what a good centre back. And then other times I watch him and think, should he be playing defensive midfields? Because it's almost as if he doesn't look like he is a centre back, even though I know he came through the ranks as a centre back, I believe at Sporting Lisbon, or it was Everton, then Sporting Lisbon. But sometimes I just wonder whether he is naturally meant to be a centre back. So I think it'd be interesting seeing Chris Wood come up against him at the weekend.
Yeah, it's a bit of worrying, and it was a bit of a teething period for him, especially last season, where I think my worry for him, especially when he got shoehorned into that position by Mourinho and then offered a new contract pretty much straight away, was that kind of lack of experience in that position, because obviously in defensive midfield, if the ball goes in behind you, it's not the worst thing in the world. You don't have to hold a defensive line timing wise. So it's all good. And then as soon as he got kind of shoehorned there, you kind of noticed his kind of defensive midfield traits, where he wouldn't be accountable for balls which would flash across him, and he could easily get himself, but he would kind of leave it to someone at the back post. He'd leave it for Lloris to get, and ultimately people would just run off him and score. That happened a lot towards the back end of this season, but we've not been jinxing it too much this season. But I've got to say, he's been incredibly consistent, and I am touching wood right now as I say that.
Chris Wood.
But he has been incredibly consistent, and obviously it was mentioned just then that how solid we've looked recently. Obviously partly due to the lineup being set now. Conte knows his first 11, but while we had Eric Dyer out for a few games, we had home losses to Southampton, to Wolves, and we lost away at Burnley, conceding largely the same goal, which was literally a cross, mostly from the right-hand side as well. But yeah, Eric Dyer, again, incredibly consistent, and he's actually now accountable for balls which come into his area. And he's by far kind of their best aerial defender as well, whereas Romero especially can be a bit caught out with balls in the air across the box. So yeah, if Chris Wood sticks on Dyer instead of Romero, then I'll be a lot more comfortable.
Nah, definitely. And David Cook says, ASM will destroy Doherty down that side, and
then Romero would just clamp him. That would be the plan. I think. Doherty's the decoy. I'm sorry. He's just a fool guy.
That's what's going to be interesting, is that if Doherty likes to get forward, which is fine, it could mean that there's a overcommitment there, and ASM, who openly doesn't like to track back, and it's been a talking point for Newcastle fans in that he doesn't track back. But Matty Target is more than capable of kind of holding his own down that left-hand side, which Chris has already alluded to, that ASM likes to play further forward and be that guy to catch teams on the counter-attack. So that'll be a really interesting battle with Romero, because he is a tough tackling centre-back, a terrific centre-back, another fantastic sign. But interestingly, brings on to my next point, is that Jeff, Super Jeff, welcome to the chat. Good to have you back. He said, difficult to play against with our systems, looking at obviously the team that you put out, which kind of brings me on to this kind of new sort of maybe feature that I want to kind of bring in, really. So I don't know if you can see this on the screen. If I add it to the screen.
Oh yeah, Pete.
So from a tactical point of view, and just confirm, can you see the movement of Kane?
Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Pete, this is better than Sky Sports.
Yeah, we like to add something new to the show now and again. So looking at I've managed to look at Owen's team and Owen's setup that he's put out in the 3-4-3 formation here. And I've put out the team that I think, and I know it's quite small, so I apologise if you can't really read them. But obviously we've got Dubravka in goal, Burn and Shaw at the back, Manquillo I've gone for at right back, Target at left back. And it's that midfield three that I think Jeff is talking about with regards to the system, because we do have that three, and I've gone for Bruno, Willock and Joe Linton, even though Shelby is fit and ready to play this weekend. And then I've gone with the ASM, and we talked about here, ASM with Doherty bumming on. It could leave potentially, and if I move these players up here, with the likes of Son, Højbjerg further up in midfield, and the three up here, if I move these guys up here, what it allows is a potential one-on-one with Romero, which we all know from our perspective, and I'm obviously talking from a Newcastle perspective here, that's exactly what ASM wants. But the key is here is this midfield, and the way we press up here, we press quite high. So I've got Willock here on the right-hand side, Joe Linton on the left. They go hunting. They'll go hunting forward, to the sides, on the wings, and they'll protect as well their fullback. So that's kind of their job. They protect the fullbacks, but they'll also press forward. They're our sort of box-to-box midfielders. And this is where I think Højbjerg and Bentancur really like time on the ball. But these guys here, Joe Linton and Willock, are the kings at the moment, in our perspective, of pressing high and winning the ball high up the pitch. And I think that's where it's going to be key. You know, you've talked about as well, Chris, Wood being on Dyer in the middle here, being that kind of bull, holding up the ball and causing a lot of problems, to link in with the likes of Fraser, who likes to make these runs in behind. He's that kind of guy that likes to link up with Wood. But I think it would be quite interesting. But equally, on the flip side to that, is that this is where we might get packed out here, because we like to press up high. What I've noticed is, with regards to us, is that, you know, if we're not 100 mile an hour for 90 minutes, these guys sometimes get caught high up the pitch. And if you remember the Everton game, and I think I mentioned to you, Chris, if you watch the video from behind the stands, the Everton stands, is that Willock tries to win the ball up high, and we actually get caught in this area here that he's meant to be defending. So that's going to be the key there. And if you've got someone like Son that likes to cut in on his right and put his ball into the top sort of left-hand corner of Dubravka, you've got Kane making those runs in and behind Burn and Shaw. I think aerially, Burn and Shaw will have things covered, but it's on the ground. And then you've got the unknown factor from Newcastle of sort of Kulusevski. But I don't know what you guys think of that, and if you've got any sort of alternatives from that point of view.
Would you not consider bringing Shelby back, Pete? It's just, do you not think perhaps that Guimaraes in particular missed Shelby on the Everton game?
Yeah, I understand from that point of view. Obviously, Shelby is sort of more of an experienced centre midfielder. I actually think they play a very similar role. And if you look at the way Bruno Guimaraes played against Everton, I think he was key to the first 60 minutes of the game as really dominating possession. He did that Shelby role, and everything came through him, and he made things tick. He was creating chances out right, out left. He was, you know, he's the only thing different with Bruno Guimaraes is that Shelby stays very central. He doesn't move. He doesn't really deviate left or right with the ball. But Bruno Guimaraes at times can play just as far forward as the other two. And he likes to get left, he likes to get right, and really kind of link the play. So he is more of an all-action, sort of more defensive centre midfielder. He does like to get forward and really press teams further up the pitch and really kind of push our team up the pitch. You'll see Dan Burn and Shaw literally playing on the halfway line at times when we've got the ball, and we like to push players real far, a lot further forward, and ultimately push the opposition back. So I think he offers a little bit more in that position than Shelby. Shelby is quite stuck to that position, which sometimes can be great, but the versatility of Bruno Guimaraes in not being easily marked and knowing, you know, that he's always going to be on the move, always going to be looking for the ball off target, off Manquillo, looking to always play in ASM. Keep an eye on that on Sunday. Whenever he gets the ball, when ASM's on the pitch, the first thought is always to his left-hand side, because he wants to get ASM on the ball as soon as possible. And what's really been interesting about that is actually more recently is that if you look on social media, they're talking to each other all the time. They've clearly like kind of built up a really kind of good sort of partnership at the moment. So I think, you know, look at that on Sunday. Whenever he gets the ball, he tends to look left for ASM, and he likes to get ASM on the ball in attacking positions as much as possible. But I mean, from your perspective, you know, what do you think tactically might be slightly different for Tottenham?
I think with Romero, who we've been calling Romero in recent weeks because he likes to just essentially play as far forward as he wants, he might be a bit more disciplined there to make sure ASM doesn't get in behind. So I think Ben Davies might be key in getting forward with those infield runs I referred to earlier, and those infield passes to make the runs in midfield. Then freeing up Reguilon, obviously, to run behind. But obviously, with the higher press you spoke about as well, it looks like you outnumber us just a bit. So I think Kane will have to drop into those spaces, which Bruno's occupying there, just to offer that option, and then we'll play off from there. But it can depend. If Kane doesn't drop in, then Kulusevski tends to drop in. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, I think Ben Davies, as well as Kane and Kulusevski, will be key players for this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. So thinking with sort of Newcastle with the ball, with Bruno potentially on the board in those situations, I think what we might see is Kane trying to sit in front of him to stop him playing. Like you said, he plays more deep lying at the moment. And although he does that from an attacking point of view to get on the ball a lot more, what you'll probably find is that if Bruno does play, he will try and occupy that position to stop him having as much draw in the ball. If you see Kane left or right and not really pressing Bruno Guimaraes, it's going to then expect either Højbjerg or Bentancur to go out to him, or either Kulusevski or Son to go and press that ball, which then opens up spaces here for that ball into Fraser, Manquillo to work on the left or right, but equally on the left. And that's where we want the ball to be, because we know he can damage players that way. But ultimately, that's not where Tottenham want us to be having the ball. And what I like about, you know, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is that they've got a much bigger pitch, in my opinion. I think, you know, the measurements of the pitch, I don't know for sure, but it looks a lot bigger pitch. And ASM likes to play on a bigger pitch. He's got more space to play in. He would like to have that one-on-one with Romero. It's going to then commit the likes of Bentancur over. It's going to mean that Doherty plays more defensively, which takes away the fact that he likes to get balls in. He likes to get balls into the box. And it's just going to make you guys think a little bit more defensively. But the one thing I'll say on top of that is that we have incredible fitness as well. Our fitness, Eddie Howe's our players incredibly fit. So we know that we can go, you know, 100 miles an hour for at least 80, 85 minutes of a game. And that's, you know, then not even factoring in the potential that we can make some subs. And we've got a number of players back to booster the squad. So it'll be a really, really interesting sort of battle to see how the game works. But, you know, Chris, Keith, from your point of view, anything more tactically you think could potentially happen in the game on Sunday before we move on?
Do you know what? I think you covered pretty much everything. Do you know what I wanted to touch on, Pete, which is what you mentioned earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you while you were in full flow. I completely agree with you about Bruno. You know, obviously John Joe Shelby, since Eddie Howe's come in, has been absolutely fantastic. But you could see, for me, especially in that first half against Everton, how mobile Bruno is. So like he'll play, you know, the simple ball, which, you know, Shelby can do, and also, you know, that Hollywood ball. I mean, I think we all, well, most of us will have seen that that ball that Bruno did for Kraft in the first half, and it was just ridiculous. He just split the whole Everton midfield and defence. It was a great ball. And Shelby's more than capable of that. But what I've noticed with Bruno is he'll give the ball, and then you see him running, and he's trying to make grounds. He's trying to push, you know. Yeah, he's trying to move us forward, but he's also creating options and he's dragging other players away, and he just seems to have everything. So I think you're right, Pete, in that really, it's going to be very, very, very difficult now to drop Bruno unless, of course, he's tired or whether they want to rest him or he's got an injury, because I think he has to stay in this team.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point at all. But I've got Daz in the background. What kind of show is this if you don't know the pitch measurements? we bring other things in. We bring tactical opinions. We bring great knowledge from opposition fans like Owen. We can't have everything, Daz. We can't have everything. We're not perfect. All right.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I don't know the pitch dimensions at all, so I'm just doing that Homer Simpson little gif where you just slide into the hedge away, and you didn't see me.
I've got a question
So
for Owen as
should
well.
probably know.
I've got a question for Owen as well about the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I believe there was a rugby union match played there last weekend as well. I think Bristol were playing there. There was some rugby union match there. What sort of condition is he expecting White Hart Lane to be in on Sunday at the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium?
It's an interesting one because we've got obviously a deal to host NFL games there, and what we've got this separate pitch which we bring out from underneath the main football pitch to be used for other sporting events. So I imagine, at best guess, as an educated guess, we would have used that NFL pitch and then swapped it back to the football pitch. But yeah, no, I'll be one to look out for sure. And thank you, Davey, for the pitch dimensions as well.
He's gone for it. The pitch dimensions are on point. And equally, I'd already put this on before, but he's even gone. And Newcastle's is the same, if I'm right in thinking. Yeah, exactly the same. The pitch dimensions, and we know how much space and how much joy Alan St-Maximin gets from that perspective at St James's Park. So hopefully we'll get something very, very similar again. But we may bring this feature back with a tactical board online.
Oh, I love it, Pete. I love it.
On away day shows. We like to talk a little bit tactical, and we've talked tactical really well with lots of opposition fans, along with Owen tonight as well, but not really had something to go on. And yes, Daz, I apologise. I will make sure I press the button to make it bigger in the future, but work in progress. Let's see how it goes. But we'll come back to us for now. Look, guys, it's been a fantastic show. Over 100 watching, which is amazing. If you haven't subscribed, we've got some new subscribers or new visitors to the channel tonight. Click that subscribe button. Come and join the Loaded family. Lots more shows to come. Lots more tactical discussions and talk for various different shows coming up. If you're not already a member, you can become a member. We've got fantastic members at Loaded HQ, loads of which are already in the chat tonight. Come and join us. The likes of Jeff, Mike, Geordie Toon for Life, Paul, Mike, and many, many others. Come and join us. But from our point of view, it's down to the big call now. What are the predictions for Sunday? What are we going for? So we'll go around the houses. Chris, we'll start with you. Come 6:30, 7:45, 7 o'clock Sunday evening. You're going to be in London, hopefully in the ground, in the away end. But if not, you'll be in a bar watching the game. What do you expect that result to be come Sunday night?
Do you know what? I was asked this question on a it must have been NUFC Matters, but I feel like I've been asked it on a show before that. I feel like because of the international debate, we've been talking about it for weeks. But I'm going to stick to my original prediction, Pete, which is 1-1.
Ooh, 1-1.
I'm going to say 1-1. Yeah.
Take a point.
Oh,
okay,
I take a point all day.
Yeah. Keith, coming to you, what do you think the result's going to be Sunday evening?
I'm a bit concerned, I've got to be honest. I'm concerned by Tottenham's recent form. And I'm concerned by, in particular, how the teams match up. And I think with us, just offensively, I just expect that edge to really swing it for Tottenham. As soon as Newcastle can get Wilson back and then get to the end of the season and get some reinforcements up front, I'll be a happy man. But unfortunately on this one, I think Tottenham are going to shade it. It'll either be 1-0 or it'll be 2-0. Son and Kane again, unfortunately.
Realism from Keith, always expected. Appreciate your points of view. I hope you're wrong.
So do I. Anything close to the last 2 seasons at Tottenham would be great for me, and I'd be happy, man, if any of those sort of results came up.
Yeah, definitely. Fingers crossed we can continue that run. But Owen, I'll come to you next. From a Tottenham perspective, what are you expecting on Sunday from your team? What do you think the result's going to be?
Yeah, I think Mohammed there, down there in the comments, gets it. I'm thinking 3-0 win. Largely Kane and Son. I'm thinking Son 2 goals, Kane 1.
Okay.
And hopefully some tears from Joe Linton and Wilson as well. That would be the cherry on
just
top.
heads up to cry.
He's still not happy about Wilson. A year on, still not happy about him.
No.
Obviously,
Joe Willock might be fired up though. That's the thing. Joe Willock, his boyhood rivals.
Yeah, exactly.
There's got so many little rivalries going on. I didn't even realise.
Yeah,
he can cry too. He can cry too.
He was crying tears at St James's, wasn't he, at the last interview after that 3-2 win last season, wasn't he, Pete?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Joe Willock has definitely come back into form more recently, playing in that midfield 3. So hopefully he's fit and firing and ready to go. But for me, I think there's going to be goals on Sunday. I do. I think it'll be 2-2. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. I think there'll be goals. I do think Son will score. I think Kulusevski might get the other goal, but I think Newcastle score. I'm expecting I'm expecting a good performance from ASM. I think he'll have a good game on Sunday. He's been banging the drum that he's got something to prove, with the question marks that's been had from some sections of the fan base. Obviously, with regards to his fitness, I think he's got something to prove, and I think he'll get a goal. And you know what? Interestingly, the other scorer I think Joe Linton will score. I think Joe Linton will score on Sunday. I do. I just feel he's got a goal in him on Sunday, and I think it'll be a 2-2 draw, which, as Chris has alluded to as well, I'd take a point. A point would be a really good result for us with the next 4 fixtures that we've got: Wolves, Leicester at home, Palace then at home as well. 3 home games with then Norwich away, which then we can go into with huge confidence. There are predictions right there. Now, I don't know how long you've got with us, Owen. How long are you able to stay on? Because there are a few questions that people have got.
Yeah, go for it. Far away. I just see a few there, so go for it.
Good man.
Chris. Okay. Some questions out there for. There's been a lot.
Owen, I'm scrolling all the way to the top, mate. I don't want to miss any good ones, but I will just have a quick nose now. But yeah, we've had loads of questions coming in. I'm not going to ask you that one because that's a Newcastle.
I can imagine people making quite a lot of parallels between Mike Ashley and Daniel Levy as well. So I've seen a few questions along that line.
Well, what are your thoughts on that though?
Come on.
He is a Tottenham fan, by the way, Mike Ashley.
Well, hopefully he stays nowhere near us. But Levy's one where we were concentrated a lot on the new stadium around the time we were obviously getting to a really good spot to start challenging for like proper titles, right? We were looking to kick, but Levy always insisted it was a 5-year project with Pochettino. So we're 3 years in, so he's like, okay, look, we're not at the end of this project yet. I said I'll back you at the end once the new stadium is open. So obviously he's done very well in the business sense to kind of create this project and sustain us, making profit organically. We haven't had any kind of sugar daddies from Russia or Saudi Arabia yet, anyway. And then obviously new stadium opens, we get all this juicy revenue in, and COVID happens. So it got caught at an unlucky time for us because lo and behold, once the new stadium opened, we did spend about 140 million in that summer window straight after the stadium opened. So he's true to his word on that. I feel like Mourinho was relatively well backed as well. So recently he's been true to his word in that sense, even though we've been a bit unlucky with timing. And obviously we should have been more proactive before the new stadium opens, but it is what it is. And it was just a good sign of ambition, not only getting us into the much hated and debated European Super League. Obviously, I didn't fully agree with it, but I think it was a good sign of ambition just getting us in there as a founding member. I still don't know how he pulled that off. Ticket prices are terrible, by the way. Geordie Tune for life, just to get that out of the way. They're probably the most expensive in the league, I think, if not top 3. But yeah, a good sign of ambition again going for Mourinho, even though that wasn't really ever going to work. The intent was to be ambitious, and then obviously getting Conte and seizing on that opportunity while we could. Recently, he being Levy, has been really reactive to fan criticism. And I guess that's why he's kind of gone in for Conte as his last chance. It's his last hurrah. Otherwise, people are going to be turning up at his gaff, demanding his head, figuratively. And there was a question saying, is Levy trying to sell Spurs in the background? I don't even think that's a secret either. I think this whole thing was planned for Spurs to be sold by ENIC, who are essentially headhunted and headed by a guy called Joe Lewis, who is actually a billionaire and one of the richest owners in the whole league, but he just never put any money into the club. I think Levy's looking to stay on whether we sell, even after we sell the club as well. So even if we did perhaps get a sugar daddy, and he would still look to be chairman for us. Another thing as well, one of his biggest criticisms was not really being proactive on the football side, or as proactive with the football side of it as he had been the business side. And he actually held his hands up and kind of owned that in some end of season statement at the back end of last season. So fans demanded that he hire a sporting director to look after that side of it. Hired for Fabio Paratici, who's now come in and he's looking to overhaul our whole scouting system. So, so far so good in recent history, anyway. And we'll see if he will actually be able to sell the club, because the markup, I think he's looking for like 3 billion.
Yeah.
It's
which,
you know what, Owen, we were...
I don't know how many people can pay that much, but Chelsea managed to find someone quite quickly, so who knows?
Yeah, we were talking about
debt, isn't it? So sorry, Chris. The other thing is the debt as well of the stadium. That's a massive thing at the minute, especially with the newly opened stadium and the COVID hitting that debt as well. It's probably off-putting to a lot of buyers compared to, obviously a lot of other Premier League clubs and even the London clubs.
There's a weird thing which Levy did, which I don't fully understand, but he refinanced the debt into bonds, which I only know, I guess on the surface level of it, we have much longer to pay back the money and with much less interest as well. On top of that, he's been in the background securing like bits of property and land and stuff for Tottenham to build other projects on, to obviously help us sustain and like an organic profit. And so we still have like a self-sustained financial model where we got money coming in from all different areas, fingers in many pots. I think he recently bought like a land which was previously a golf course or something like that. So in the background he's been doing that while Fabio Paratici looks after the football side of it, and who knows, I think we're the only kind of profitable football clubs, so maybe in that sense will be an attractive proposition for a buyer, but it's more of a long-term project than someone looking for a short-term profit.
I think that's a good assessment of Daniel Levy. The less we talk about Mike Ashley, the better. I'm going to be honest.
How long have we got again?
Oh, yeah, not long enough. And to be fair, as Newcastle fans, don't even really want to talk about him anymore because he's long gone. 6 months gone nearly from our club, and we're certainly better for it. But I know there's been lots of other questions out there. Chris, throw us one our way.
Yeah, so this was an interesting one from Julie, actually. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, Owen. So Julie asks, I'm curious on the view about the planned protest. How much support is there, and how is it viewed amongst the Spurs fan base?
Is this a recent protest?
Yeah. So basically, there's been noise from Tottenham point of view. I think they announced that they're going to do some form of protest against the Newcastle regime, the Newcastle new ownership. They're going to do some form of protest at the game on Sunday. So I don't know how much it's been talked about within Tottenham fans, but it was something that Newcastle fans had talked about. I think certainly today that it was something that had been planned for the game on Sunday. How big it is, and whether it's in the stadium or not, I don't know those sort of details. But have you heard anything from your perspective?
I've heard nothing about it, to be fair. And if it's any reflection on how big the protests are from the European Super League, I can't imagine it being very big at all. To be honest, I had heard of a small protest about there being a season ticket issue, though, because they got the season ticket renewal deadline by the end of this month, I think, because they want to end up securing all the renewals way before they find out where we finish this season, whether Kane leaves or not. So there's been a bit of uproar about that amongst the supporters trust. But as protesting your owners, one that would be a bit hypocritical too. I can't imagine it being big if existent at all.
Yeah. Right. This one takes us back, by the way, Owen. I remember this guy very well, but Guybrush Threepwood asks, did you love Martin Jol? I always liked him when he was in the Prem.
Yeah, I loved him. I think I was about 11, 12 when he first took the helm, and he brought Edgar Davids in, which obviously I was very excited about at the time. Didn't really care about him being a bit of a knob at other teams or whatever. I just knew he was on the front cover of FIFA 2 years before. He had a good loan spell with Barcelona, and he'd come in and played a really good brand of football. Some of our entitled fans call it the Tottenham way, even though such a thing doesn't really exist. But we were this free scoring team, which we would only really buy like good forwards as well. He essentially broke that kind of barrier to get us into that kind of top 6 European football kind of place, to allow us to properly kick on. Would have got 4th had it not been for a bit of lasagna. We don't talk about that too much.
I remember that.
Yeah, he put us in good stead for Harry Redknapp to fully help us kick on. Yeah. It was the first time I remember us really, like me as a fan, being really proud of a Tottenham team and actually confident going into away games, because our away record, we would only really win 1 or 2 games a season away from home before that. So yeah, got a lot of love for Martin Jol, especially squaring up to Arsene Wenger. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, was that the kind of like Pavlyuchenko, Robbie Keane, Jermaine Defoe era?
No, Pavlyuchenko came in under one day Ramos after we sold Berbatov. But he Martin Jol worked under a sporting director called Damien Kamoli, and we brought in Berbatov and Asuikoto, I think, other players. But yeah, it was obviously the best team when we had Davidson, Carrick in the middle. Jermaine Defoe still there. We had Mido, Keane, Canute.
Yeah, Canute.
Mido was incredible that season. We finished 5th as well.
Yeah.
He was a champ manager legend, Mido.
Yeah, Mido was.
He was a proper champ manager legend.
Loved Mido.
Not even the football manager, not the football manager now. I want to talk about the champ manager legend. He was absolutely class.
Yeah.
Canute as well, as you mentioned, Chris.
Yeah, Canute was quality, wasn't he?
Jermaine Jenas, was he there at the time as well? I think because he left Newcastle, didn't he, around about the mid-2000s to go to Spurs, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was there.
Yeah.
Oh, please let Jermaine Jenas commentate some of your games, by the way, because he botches all the commentating for all of our games.
No, he does the same for us as well.
No, I didn't mind Jenas. I just
we've got. Look, I think Chris and Keith may agree, and the guys and girls in the chat may agree as well, that we're not necessarily fond of Jermaine Jenas. Obviously, when he left to join you guys, he didn't talk very positively about Newcastle, and ultimately, over the course of his career, and you may agree with this, he actually played his best football playing for Newcastle. He got in the England squad playing for Newcastle, and he didn't really hit the heights at Tottenham as we maybe expected he was going to do, for the fact that he left to go to Tottenham. But what was really annoying for me personally with Jermaine Jenas is that when he left, obviously when he finished playing football and he kind of left that behind and he went on to doing the football punditry, he didn't reference Newcastle at all. He only really talked of himself as an ex-Tottenham player, which I thought was quite disrespectful, considering that we plucked him for £5 million from Nottingham Forest that were really going nowhere at the time. So Bobby Robson gave him an opportunity at Newcastle. He ended up playing Champions League football regularly for Newcastle, European football regularly for Newcastle. He was playing for England and broke into the England side on the back of it. So I thought he should have given us a little bit more respect. But interestingly, since the takeover, since October the 7th, 2021, Newcastle seems to be on his lips again. And he seems to be talking about Newcastle just a little bit more. And that kind of pisses me off a little bit. I don't know what Chris, Keith, I don't know what you think of that. You think something similar?
I totally agree. We were talking about it, weren't we, Pete, saying that, like, in the past, he would distance himself from Newcastle, but now, in fact, we were talking about it on a show, weren't we, Pete? And I forget who the female presenter was, but she was asking him as in, he's one of the boys, like your club, and he was like lapping it up, going, but when I was there, and you're just like, what? Like, you wouldn't know he used to play for us for like the past 5 or 6 years because he just never mentioned us.
Yeah.
And now it's just all Newcastle, and you think,
I think there's a few like that. I think even Owens came out recently out of the woodwork, and he's trying to curry favour with Newcastle as well.
Did he say he wasn't angry anymore?
No, it's just bizarre.
What did he have to be angry about?
Oh, mate.
Oh, honestly, I can't.
He wanted to be England's top goal scorer. I think that's what it was, and I think sadly it didn't eventually end up going like that, did it? The tail end of his career, because for a lot of seasons he was prolific, wasn't he, in the early to mid 2000s, and then all of a sudden it's sort of around about, I think he got his last cap in 2008, and even though he went to Man United for a couple of seasons, he could never get back into the England team and never break that record.
That cruciate knee ligament injury that he suffered, it wasn't even the metatarsal injury that he suffered against Tottenham, funny enough, at White Hart Lane. When he played for Newcastle, it was New Year's Day, I think it was, or New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
In that season, where he was playing unbelievably, to be fair to him, alongside Alan Shearer. When he got that metatarsal injury, obviously it put a question mark whether he was going to make the World Cup. He made the World Cup. but it was that cruciate knee ligament injury. I think it was against Sweden that he suffered. That effectively ended his career at the highest level. He was never going to come back the same player. It just wasn't, because he relied on his pace so much, and having so long out, he was out for a year. He never came back the same player. But the less we talk about Michael Owen from a Newcastle perspective, the better.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Interestingly, just to jump in there, I apologise, Chris.
Go on, Pete.
But Lisa, a friend of the channel, puts in there, question for Owen: who's your favourite player that played for both Spurs and Newcastle? Obviously, we've talked about Jermaine Jones, so hopefully you don't say him. But there are a number of other players that play for Newcastle and Tottenham as well.
Yeah, there is. I did like Jermaine Jones as a player, but for me, even though there's an obvious two, right, and both of them were a bit before my time of appreciating football, but I lean towards Paul Gascoigne. For me, I only really remember Ginola turning up in a game against Barnsley. Whenever I used to watch him live and really wanting to perform in a big game, for whatever reason, maybe I just missed his better games. It just didn't work out. Whereas whenever I watch games back of Gascoigne, he would love to turn up in big games, played with all this freedom and flair, and obviously that free kick against Arsenal stays in the memory in the FA Cup. So. Maybe a bit of a Brexit opinion to say I probably feel a little bit like I can relate a bit more to him than I guess a very handsome Frenchman. So I'll have to say Paul Gascoigne.
Yeah, that's a good one, mate. That's a great question, that, Lisa. Yeah, really good question.
I was going to say just a quick round from you, Chris.
Oh yeah, go on.
What do you think?
It's a toss-up for me, off the top of my head, between probably Sir Les and Ginola. See, I'm going to have to go Sir Les, because Ginola broke my heart when he left. Absolutely broke my heart, and I've never really forgiven for it. I remember crying as a kid when he left, and I think I've told you this, haven't I? I sent him a tweet years ago saying, why do you always talk about Tottenham? You never talk about Newcastle. And he responded to me, and I was made up. Even though he didn't deny what I was saying. He was just like, oh no, I am fond of Newcastle. But he basically was saying, I prefer Tottenham. But anyway, I'd have to say Sir Les, I think.
What about you, Keith?
I want to give a classic sit on the fence answer. Gaza, to echo Owen's points, when I was a kid, Italia 90 and all of that, first seeing it the first time, football, it was just Gaza from there, really. And Euro 96, and wherever Gaza went, I followed his career, and always wanted him to do well. Chrissy Waddle as well, another Newcastle Geordie player who played it well for Tottenham as well. Brilliant, one of the greatest underrated players, really, when you think about it. And again, obviously, you've got to have Ginola and Ferdinand. And I think when Ginola was at Tottenham, he had a bit more end product in his game. Like he got a few more goals, and he set a few more up, and he got the player of the season one year, I believe, or the player of the season back in '99 when they won the League Cup. But Sir Les, when you think about it, when he was playing with Shearer, I don't think I've ever seen a better player, a strike partner, and I was devastated. Obviously, got to see Ginola go, but Ferdinand in particular, he was such a talisman, one of my favourite strikers of all time. So it's Gaza and Ferdinand for me, and I'm on the fence with both. They're my favourite Newcastle Tottenham player.
And what about you, Pete? Pete looks really excited. Pete's gonna come out for a cracker, isn't he? We've all forgot about.
He's gonna say Trippier.
You know what? It's a great shout. It's a great shout.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for another right back. I'm going to go for Stephen Carr.
Oh,
I'm joking, by the way.
I was going to say,
it crossed my mind.
Jesus, can't wait for this.
Crossed my mind.
I'm joking. Definitely not Stephen Carr. You know what? In my mind, as soon as that question popped up, and it was obviously to Owen initially, I was thinking of players, and there's two players I was thinking of, and it was obviously Ginola and Les Ferdinand. I can't think past Les Ferdinand. Les Ferdinand was massive for me growing up as a young lad supporting Newcastle. Interesting, you said you cried when Ginola left. I was the same when Andy Cole left to go to Man United. That's how it made me feel. Like I was distraught because Andy Cole was a big reason why I started watching Newcastle. My first game ever watching Newcastle was the 7-1 against Leicester when he scored a hat-trick. He was the reason why I was infatuated by Newcastle United, a lad that lived in Leicester, watching Newcastle for the first time, being absolutely mesmerised by a striker that played as well as he did. I was in bits for that. But what made me feel better about it is that we bought Sir Les in. And he was just a fantastic striker for us that left far too soon at Newcastle. Should have stayed for at least another 3 or 4 years, but didn't, unfortunately. So I would probably go with Les Ferdinand for me. He was just such an important player for me personally, but I think he was an important player at the time for Newcastle United. But yeah, Stephen Carr may be a close second, possibly. But yeah, we'll see about that. But look, let's go for a quick round, a quick fire round for Owen. Yeah. Quick 5-question fire round.
Yeah.
And then we'll end the show on a real quality note.
Pete, I've got to bring this up, and I know it'll take far too long, so maybe we save this for another time. I don't know, and obviously, Owen, if there's any players you just want to pop out, go for it. But this could be another segment for the show, Pete, where we maybe we all have an argument about who our left back would be, who our right back would be, and we compare the two players. I don't know, yeah. Mike. It's a really good suggestion for Mike. But Owen, off the top of your head, mate, or first impressions, first feelings. Which Spurs players would get into the Newcastle squad at this moment? So where do you see our team and you think, well, he's better than him? Like, say, well, hopefully there's only 3 or 4, but you may say more. But where would you say your key players would be in our team?
I'd say Hugo Lloris straight away when he's sober, for sure. And he has been recently, so that's good.
Breaking news. I wish I had Daz's breaking news on there. Breaking news.
I'd say both Romero and Dyer for sure. Even though you have upgraded with Dan Burn, I felt like Shaw and Lascelles probably not up to par with them. Regulon. So what are we on for? Like 4 already? Interesting.
Just a whole team, Owen, if you want.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I actually like Ryan Fraser, but I think Kulusevski gets in over him. I can't even play around with your centre midfield too tough, to be fair. But I'll say Bentancur will get in over Willock. And then I'll leave Bruno and Jelinton maybe where they are, because I've been a bit hit and miss with Højbjerg or Winks and Skip. I'd say Heung-min Son and Kane obviously get in there as well. So was that 7 or 8 players?
Yeah. I think we got 2
it's about
in there.
9, isn't it?
Yeah. So thank you for that. We got 2 in there. That's great.
Yeah, just the old 9 out of 11. The old casual 9 out of 11. Look, Chris, I'm interested to see what your mixed 11 will be.
Okay. I'll make it quick. I think Lloris is a fair one. I think we've had our doubts a little bit over Dubravka recently, so I'm not going to say Dubravka because I know Lloris, French captain, been there, done it, seen it, everything. So I can go with that. I'm gonna put Trippier in, Owen, because I know he's injured, but he's nearly there. So I'm gonna say Trippier. The centre backs, I don't know if we're gonna agree on these. I'd probably go, in fairness, I'd probably go Romero and Shaw, I'd say. After what I said about Dyer, I'm a little bit, I may be proved completely wrong at the weekend. I may go bloody hell, Dyer's really hitting some form. So not that I don't believe you, Owen, but that's probably where I'd go anyway. At left back, I do really like Reguilon. I don't know, it's a toughie. Do you know what? For consistency, I'm going to say Matty Target. I'm going to do it. I do love Reguilon, but I'm going to say Matty Target. In the middle, I'd go Bentancur and Joe Linton and Bruno. Up top, Son's definitely getting in. Kane's got to get in at Wood. And on, you've got to put Maxi in, Owen. You've got to put Maxi in. So I'm gonna I don't know what formation we're playing, but Maxi's going in. So I'd probably put 3 or 4 in. That'd be my team. Obviously, I know we play different formations, but yeah, I'd have to squeeze Maxi in. I'd have to squeeze Bruno in. I'd have to squeeze Joe Linton in, and I would have to squeeze Shah and Trippier and Target in. So I've gone 6.
Okay. Yeah, fair. I'm not gonna argue too much about Target or ASM. I love ASM as well, so I guess you could shoehorn him in on the right of Kane and Son. Wouldn't hate that. Dyer for me would still make it in though for sure.
Keith, have you got any alternatives to what Chris put out there?
As much as I respect and obviously admire his efforts over the years, Dubravka, I've got to agree about Lloris. I think he would just edge it for me. I would put Dan Burn in there. I've just been a fan of. I think Dan Burn. If we be asked the question, who's your favourite? You know, in terms of had the bigger impact apart from Trippier, it would be Dan Burn. Biggest impact on Newcastle, solidifying the side. So I'll put him in, and Bruno definitely in that midfield. Kane and Son, as much as I love ASM, it's got to be Kane and Son. So they would be probably the only changes I would make, really.
Yeah. What about you, Pete?
No, I agree. I don't know if you know Fuad from Stop His Time TV, Owen. I don't know if you know Fuad at all. Yeah, but we had Fuad on for the away days for the other fixture at St James's Park, and I talked to him about Hugo Lloris because I felt that obviously Hugo Lloris is you know, longevity wise has been a top level goalkeeper. He's a fantastic goalkeeper, but I think over the last few years he's maybe not been at the level. Maybe improved slightly this season, but not really been at the level. And I thought Tottenham would have maybe sold him a few years ago and maybe gone for a replacement. But I actually think Dubravka, although been injured for the first half of the season, as goalkeepers are actually quite closer to level than people maybe recognise. I think Dubravka is a very, very good goalkeeper. I would maybe, just for longevity and maybe for experience-wise, put Lloris maybe slightly higher, but I think it's a lot closer than people think.
Yeah.
But so maybe just Hugo Lloris in there. But I would agree with what you guys said. I would go Trippier right back. I would go definitely Romero. I think he's a top level centre back. I think you guys have done fantastic business to get him. But I would agree with Keith. I would go Big Dan Burn, that Blythe Bonucci. I think he's a top fantastic centre back. And I think actually when he signed for Newcastle, his form was coming in as being one of the best centre backs in that period of time in the Premier League. And that's not just my opinion. You know, people were talking about him as being the most informed centre-back in the Premier League before he came to Newcastle, playing at Brighton. And I think he's continued that form on. Yes, he's had odd last-minute mistakes that have cost us maybe 1 or 2 goals in recent games. But I think even though his whole game performance has been really, really good. And I think, for me, he's performing better than Dyer. I think Dyer has improved. I think you're absolutely right, Owen. But from my point of view, I think Dan Burn is playing better at the moment. And actually, interestingly, I think Dan Burn, even at 29 years old, has probably got, and this is maybe a talking point, he's probably got more chance of getting called up for England than Eric Dyer at this stage. And they're at similar.
How did Eric Dyer not get called up for that last squad though over Connor Cody and Tyrone Mings? That's a bit of a myth to me. But
it's an interesting one, Owen, because we had the same mindset and the same thought as Newcastle fans about Dan Burn. We were actually really disappointed that he didn't get called up because he'd been playing so well at the moment and been talked about as this fantastic informed centre-back that we were quite disappointed that he got called up. I mean, Tyrone Mings has been honking this season, in my opinion. Tyrone Mings, okay, scored on international duty, but he's been absolutely honking at the moment. And he managed to get called up into the squad ahead of Dyer and ahead of Dan Burn, who you could argue have been playing much, much better than him.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. Left back, I'll go Reguilón. I rate him very, very highly. And I know
Yeah,
there's
good
some
player.
Tottenham fans that don't necessarily rate him and have been kind of questioning him. But I actually think he's a top level left back. I think he's fantastic. And I love his passion. I love his work rate. He's got fantastic quality and ability on the ball in attacking areas. I just think he's great. Midfield wise, I would go a 3 in midfield. Bruno Guimaraes for me has to be a starter in there. It has to be, and it'll probably be. I would actually probably play Bentancur as the deep line centre midfielder, and I play Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton as the other two further forward. Joe Linton,
you can't drop him.
Yeah, you can't. And you know what? It's really harsh on Højbjerg, who I really like as well. I really like him as a centre midfielder, and it's harsh on Joe Willock because I really like him too, and he's playing really well at the moment. But more so probably Højbjerg because I think he's a very, very good centre midfielder too, and he's been one of those players that's come in for Tottenham that really kind of changed the emphasis of that midfield when he came in initially under Mourinho. But and then your front three is what you guys said: Harry Kane, the main man, up top, Son on the left, Alan Saint-Maximin, who I think personally is better on the right hand side than the left. In my opinion, I've said that for about a year now. I think he plays better when he plays on the right. So yeah, those three there. That's my team, and I think personally, I think that's a team that gets top 4.
Yeah, I couldn't argue with that, mate. Now, Owen, I don't mean to scare you, but don't worry, you can answer really quick, and these questions are only going to come at you. I've got 7 questions. I've managed to filter them. So anyone, if I've missed your question, I'm really sorry, but obviously we're running short of time. But I'm going to fire these questions at Owen. They're going to be really quick, and then Owen, just give you an opinion on them. So Dunhill asks, do you think Kane will go in the summer?
No.
Do you think he'll sign a new contract?
Just the hope that as long as Conte stays, I think he'll stay. And
yeah.
Even though Conte may not stay if we don't get 4th, with my kind of borderline confidence we can make it in there, I think Kane will stay.
Oh, well, that's it. Yeah, hopefully he does, mate, because he is a top striker, to be fair, and he will be a big miss, I'm sure. But Simon Wood asks, do you think Levy will back Conte in the summer?
Yes, and I say that purely based on just how reactive I was saying that Levy was earlier to fan criticism.
Yeah.
And all the noises that we've had coming out of the club's kind of like sound pieces is that Levy will be backing him in the summer with not just acquisitions, but obviously quite a lot of sales as well.
Yeah, interesting, mate. Adam McCarthy asks, a really interesting one, and obviously we're talking hypothetical here, but let's say that Conte was to leave in the summer. Would you take Poch back?
If he was backed to the same level which Levy's looking to back Conte, then yes.
Yeah. Mike Genta asks, can you ask Owen why Kane never scores in the month of August?
He's broke that duck now, Mike. Obviously not this season because he didn't want to play for us. But yeah, in recent seasons, he has been scoring in August.
Has he?
I can tell you why he wasn't, though, because there was a few seasons that he, not too long ago, where he wasn't. And yeah, we could never figure out why, because he would tend to break his duck in the international break going into September, and then he would just be firing from there. I don't know. He's a weird one because he can be a slow starter. Like, say if he comes back from an injury, it takes him like 2 or 3 games to really get into that kind of flow of the game, that sharpness. So I think I just put that down to him generally being a slow starter, and that's why I didn't want him to start the Champions League final. But yeah, it's a weird one with him.
Interesting.
Very good, mate. Julie Baker asks, have the majority of Spurs fans settled into the new stadium now? Does it feel like home?
Yeah, I feel like I have. In the experiences I've been there. I've been to West Ham at home. That definitely felt like our stadium. I'm not sure whether it was just for a London derby or what. Obviously, we do have slight sound overs for fan chants being played through the speakers as well. You do notice it, but yeah,
Like
it
going back to
does
COVID
it
times,
does largely
isn't it?
feel like home, especially in the south stand.
Okay.
This is an interesting one for me and Russell. So he's asking, anyone know how long before kickoff you can go into the stadium at Spurs? I'm going to be there early. Now it's funny this, Owen, because obviously I've not had the opportunity to go to the new Tottenham stadium, and I really do hope I get to go this weekend. But from what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, apparently Tottenham have reduced the price of drinks and food to attract people into the stadium rather than going and eating and drinking around the stadium to save money. Is that right?
I've not heard about that, so I'll double check with some of our season ticket holders, which we've got over in the podcast group. But I haven't heard anything about that, to be fair. Whether they're doing like little meal deals there now, who knows? But yeah, you go there. There's it's like a megaplex kind of hub. Like, say you might have in your local towns like a cinema, and then all of these other restaurants like Wagamama's, Nando's, McDonald's, whatever. We've kind of got something similar in the middle of the Spurs Stadium with all of these different different food stands and stuff from different areas of the world, and then you've got the main bar as well.
Is this all inside?
Pete, it's meant to be ridiculous.
But yeah, it's all in there.
What?
It's crazy.
Yeah,
that's why I'm dying to go. It just
I
sounds.
only get a ticket because obviously I'm there Sunday, and we get to experience that together.
Having a Nando's before the match. Oh,
that's unreal.
I've never got there early enough to fully experience it, but
mate, you'll have to get there early. Have a go. Yeah. And last but not least, and I do believe this is a new viewer tonight, isn't it, Mohammed? So Mohammed, thank you very much for tuning in. And we can't let you go without asking this question: who will get relegated this season? Out of, well, Mohammed's saying it's Everton, Leeds, Norwich, Burnley, Watford, but who's your bottom three this season?
Do you know what? I've got a bit of a soft spot for Leeds still. I do. So I can't lie. It will have to be Norwich, Burnley, and Everton. For some reason, I don't like Everton that much either. So
nor do we.
Yeah, and mad Mac Mark's question as well. No, I haven't been in the cheese room. That unfortunately got scrapped.
Oh, what was he asking?
Because we were meant to have a cheese room in there, and then they scrapped it.
What?
A cheese room?
What is going on? This is crazy.
Is that just where they sell cheese?
Anyway, we do have a Sky Bar though, so we'll see if there's any wine and cheese in there for Hugo Lloris.
Someone said there's like obviously in the bar bit inside that you can actually watch the game whilst kind of drinking inside. Is that right?
What's that? Sorry.
It's like I think they refer to it as like a live bar that you can drink at the bar whilst watching the game live. I don't know whether.
Yeah, I believe you can. I think you have the option for that if you've got a ticket to watch the game itself. But yeah, I've noticed a few people. So say if there's a game on after our one, so we've got a 3:00 kickoff. There's a 5:30 game. Quite a lot of fans will stay behind and watch the game at the bar.
That's class.
That's class, isn't it?
When I went down to the stadium.
I don't know if they let fans watch the whole game though, but yeah.
Okay.
I think they're kind of bringing in. I mean, obviously Owen would be far better placed to say this than me, but the impression I got is that they're trying to bring in the whole match day experience and do it within the stadium. I mean, as we all know, if you go to the majority of grounds, you get a pint in the pub round the corner for £3, or you go in the stadium and pay £6 and you're queuing up for 20 minutes. Which one are you going to pick? So you can see why people do it, but I think the whole idea is so that people spend the day at the Tottenham stadium, spending the money, enjoying the match day experience, going to watch the game, and then maybe staying afterwards as well. I mean, do you remember that video of was it somebody playing the piano or something? And loads of people were in the stadium watching this person, and they were like, was it like a busker? I remember watching it and thinking, "Where's that?" And they were like, "Oh, it's in the Tottenham Stadium." And I was thinking, "Mad! It just looks humongous."
This wouldn't surprise me. I haven't seen that one, but that definitely wouldn't surprise me. And it makes business sense as well. Obviously,
yeah, it does.
Not just for that, but obviously for people staying behind at the bar and watching the game. So last time I went there were people who were obviously staying behind and watching the game, which was a later kickoff. So yeah, it's
crazy.
It's an interesting one. I don't know.
You're gonna have to do with some vids.
How many other stadiums do that?
No. I don't think there's any other stadiums in the world that have what Tottenham have. The fact that Sky and other pundits talk on other channels talk about Spurs' stadium being the best in the world. Just hearing just little snippets of that's what makes it the best stadium in the world. Not just because it looks fantastic, but because of the facilities and what's possible inside the stadium just makes it fantastic. And look, you can see from some of the comments coming down the side from Newcastle fans is that obviously it sounds fantastic. And look, we've got a very historic. Yeah, there you go. Everyone's too busy eating Nando's and Matthews and at the bar drinking the beers to even watch the game. But look, it's we've got a very historic stadium, but certainly certain features of that we would love to have implemented in our stadium at St James's Park. That's for sure. But look, slightly longer than anticipated, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have Owen on from New Spurs Order. Owen, where can we find you? Just throw up your tag for us so we can add you.
Of course. You can either find me on my personal one at Owen Sorrell, but mainly I'll be on one of the more frequent tweeters on the New Spurs Order Twitter account. So I should have in my name, New Spurs Order. If you type in at New Spurs Order, then we'll be there with some hot takes. Hopefully I'll see some of you over there. And obviously, thank you all again for having me, especially your fans as well. I can't really keep up with the amount of comments you guys get, but your fans here are really, really good. So.
Nah, we've got some of the best fans, best supporters of the channel. The guys and girls have been amazing tonight, and they always are for away days. They love, what it's really unique is that we have an away days channel where we have the opposition view like yourself, Owen, but everyone loves speaking to opposition fans, because the one thing about us as a channel and as the guys and girls in the chat is that they love getting the opposition view. So your views tonight on Tottenham and on Newcastle have been absolutely first class. So really, really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk Newcastle and Spurs. And look, from our perspective, best of luck for the season. Hopefully you guys get in and around the top 4 mark. But obviously, as we always say, after the game on Sunday. We obviously hope we get the 3 points from that perspective. But everyone in the chat, fantastic questions. Sorry we couldn't get through them all. They're still popping in now. Paul being obviously as polite as always. But yeah, we appreciate all the comments in the chat and all the support as always. If you haven't subscribed to Loaded HQ, click that subscribe button. It's only a click of a button. It's free to do, but it certainly helps the channel to grow and progress. And become as big as possible to reach as many Newcastle and opposition fans as humanly possible. Keith, massive thanks to 00 Stato for joining us as always. A huge part of away days and making away days what it is. And look, this away days won't be possible without the main man, Chris Hall. Who is obviously a big part of us and the reason why we are who we are. So, guys, girls, fantastic to have you on. You guys take care. Fingers crossed for 3 points, and we will speak to you very soon. You guys take care. Have a good evening.
Peace.